battered sedan, feeling the weight of my plans settle on my shoulders. It wasn't just a test for my employees, it was a test of their character. My name is Alessia Carter, and I own one of the most prestigious luxury sports car garages in the country. But today, I wasn't Alessia Carter. Dressed in an oversized hoodie, faded jeans, and sneakers that had seen better days, I played the part of a broke customer, someone unworthy of attention in a showroom filled with gleaming million-dollar machines. The sun gleamed off the polished exteriors of my collection, Bugattis, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and McLarens, each handpicked with the utmost care. And yet, the real test wasn't about the cars. It was about the people selling them. I stepped forward, past the pristine glass doors, inhaling the rich scent of leather and high-performance machinery. And then I waited. No greeting. No. How can I help you? Instead, the salespeople, men and women I had carefully hired, gave me dismissive glances before returning to their chatter. A deep irritation burned in my chest. I was invisible to them. I made my way toward a glossy black Ferrari LaFerrari, trailing my fingers lightly over the smooth, cool surface. That's when a scoffing voice cut through the air. Ma'am? I don't think you can afford that." I turned, locking eyes with a well-dressed salesman, Aiden, one of my top employees. Or so I thought. His smirk was condescending, his gaze flicking over my appearance with a judgmental edge. "I'd like to ask about the price," I said evenly, keeping my voice soft but firm. He laughed under his breath, shaking his head. "Listen, sweetheart, we don't do joyrides for window shoppers. This isn't some cheap dealership where you can sit in cars and dream." The others snickered. Another salesman, Mark, chimed in, "People like you don't belong here. Why don't you try a used car lot instead?" Heat surged in my veins, but I kept my face neutral. And if I could afford it? Aiden's expression darkened. "Then I'd say prove it. But we both know that's not happening." With a snap of his fingers, a security guard appeared beside me, already reaching for my arm. "All right, that's enough. Let's not waste time here," Aiden muttered, nodding toward the exit. I was being thrown out. From my own business. They had no idea who they had just insulted. The cool evening air hit my face as I stepped onto the sidewalk, fists clenched. My heart pounded, not from anger, but from betrayal. These were the people I had trusted to run my business with professionalism and integrity. Instead, they had treated a potential customer like trash. I turned back, watching through the glass as Aiden and the others laughed amongst themselves, completely unaware that their actions would have consequences. If I had walked in today as Alessia Carter, the owner, they would have rolled out the red carpet. But because I looked ordinary, I had been discarded like nothing. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. One call. That's all it would take. But no, this needed to be personal. I had a plan. And when they found out who I really was, they wouldn't just regret their actions. They would beg for forgiveness. The next morning, I walked into my showroom as myself. My presence commanded attention. Dressed in a tailored black dress, heels clicking sharply against the floor, my aura screamed power. The same employees who had dismissed me the day before suddenly snapped to attention, eyes wide with recognition and fear. Aiden's smirk vanished. Mark paled. I stopped in the center of the showroom, arms crossed. The silence was deafening. "Good morning," I said, my voice dangerously calm. Aiden swallowed hard. "Ms. Carter, Save it." My tone was ice. "I walked into my showroom yesterday, dressed like an average customer. And you humiliated me. You judged me. You kicked me out of my own business." Mark stumbled forward. "We didn't know it was you. That's the problem." I cut him off. "You didn't care to know. You assumed I was beneath you because of how I looked. You treat people like garbage unless they walk in dripping with wealth." Aiden opened his mouth, then shut it again. I let the silence stretch. Let them feel the weight of their mistake. Then I made my decision. "You're fired," I said, my voice like steel. "Every single one of you who laughed at me yesterday, pack your things and go." Aiden fell to his knees. "Ms. Carter, please. It was a mistake." We didn't mean it. I stared down at him. You didn't mean it? My voice was dangerously soft. Or you just didn't think you'd get caught? Tears welled in his eyes. Please, I have a family. For the first time, my anger wavered. I believed in second chances. But trust? That had to be earned. I'll tell you what, I said, stepping closer. I'm not heartless. You'll get one final opportunity, but not here. You'll work at my community outreach garage, where we fix cars for low-income families for free. No commissions. No luxury sales. Just people who need help. Aiden's face fell. If you turn it down, you're out for good, I added. Decide now. Aiden and a few others took the offer. Some walked out, too proud to work for free. But those who stayed learned the true meaning of service. They worked long hours, met people who had been struggling for years, and for the first time, understood the real value of kindness. A month later, Aiden approached me, his eyes filled with genuine remorse. I was an arrogant jerk, he admitted. I see that now. I never really saw people, just their wallets. I nodded. And now? He took a deep breath. Now, I get it. It's not about the money. It's about how you treat everyone, no matter who they are. For the first time, I smiled. Redemption wasn't just about apologizing. It was about changing. And as I looked around my business, now filled with respectful employees who treated every customer with dignity, I knew I had made the right choice. I had tested them. They had failed. But in the end, they had learned. And that was the real victory. Aiden wasn't the only one who changed. After the massive purge of my dealership, I made it my mission to rebuild the company, not just the brand, but its very soul. I personally hired new employees, making sure they understood the values I stood for: integrity, respect, excellence. I changed company policies, ensuring that every customer, whether they walked in wearing designer clothes or a worn-out hoodie, was treated with dignity. And most importantly, I began conducting random visits, disguising myself in different ways to make sure no one reverted to old habits. Word spread fast about the changes at Carter Luxury Motors. Customers who had once been brushed aside returned, some shocked at the shift in atmosphere. One day, an elderly man in torn shoes walked in, eyeing a vintage Aston Martin with nostalgia. A new hire, Olivia, approached him with a warm smile. "Beautiful car, isn't it?" she said. "Would you like to sit inside? I'd love to tell you about its history." The man hesitated. I don't think I could afford." Olivia shook her head. "That doesn't matter. Come, I'll show you." I watched from the sidelines, my chest swelling with pride. This was how it should have always been. One evening, as I sat in my office reviewing applications for a new showroom manager, my assistant buzzed in. "There's a visitor for you, ma'am," she said, a note of hesitation in her voice. "Who?" I asked. A pause. "Aiden." I exhaled slowly. I had kept tabs on him over the last month. He had done well at the community outreach garage, better than I expected. He didn't just show up and do the bare minimum. He had put in real effort, helping struggling families with free car repairs, treating them with the respect he had once denied others. I knew this conversation was coming. "Send him in," I said. Aiden stepped inside, no longer the arrogant salesman I had fired. His suit was gone, replaced by a simple polo and jeans. He looked humbled. "Miss Carter," he began. "I just wanted to say thank you." I leaned back. "For what?" "For giving me a second chance when I didn't deserve it." He rubbed his palms together, nervous. I used to think that being successful meant making the biggest sales, rubbing elbows with rich people, and looking down on anyone who didn't meet that standard. But working at the outreach garage? It changed me. He swallowed. "I met a single mom last week who walked 5 miles just to bring her son to school because her car was broken. If you had told me a month ago that fixing her car for free would be the highlight of my week, I would have laughed in your face. But now, I get it. I really get it." His voice cracked slightly. "I'm not asking for my job back. I just wanted you to know that I see people differently now. And I'm grateful that you forced me to." I studied him carefully. "I appreciate you telling me that," I said. He hesitated. "I also came to make you an offer. My eyebrows lifted. I want to keep working at the outreach garage, he said. I want to turn it into something bigger. More than just free repairs. We could set up training programs for underprivileged kids, teach them mechanics, give them real skills to build their future. I know I don't deserve to ask this, but if you'd be willing to help me fund it, I swear, I'll make it worth your investment. For the first time since this entire ordeal began, I felt something unexpected. Respect. Real, hard-earned respect. I let the silence stretch before I spoke. Aiden, I said, that's the best idea you've ever had. I didn't just agree to Aiden's proposal. I doubled down. Within 2 months, Carter Automotive Academy was born, a program designed to train young people from low-income backgrounds in auto repair, engineering, and business management. Aiden became its director. I oversaw the funding, ensuring it had everything it needed to thrive. And within 6 months, we had our first graduating class, kids who had once thought they had no future, now walking out with skills that could change their lives. One day, as I watched a young girl proudly accept her certificate, a familiar voice spoke beside me. You didn't just change my life, Miss Carter, Aiden said, watching the ceremony. You changed all of ours. I turned to him, my lips curving into a rare smile. No, Aiden, I said. You changed your life. I just gave you the chance to do it. 6 months later, I did something bold. I disguised myself again, this time as a middle-class woman, well-dressed but not a millionaire. And I walked into Carter Luxury Motors unannounced. The moment I stepped through the doors, Olivia, my new showroom manager, approached me with a warm, genuine smile. Good afternoon, ma'am. Welcome to Carter Luxury Motors. How can I help you today? There was no arrogance, no judgment, no condescension. I glanced around. Employees were engaging with customers, treating each one with dignity, whether they looked like billionaires or regular people. It had worked. I had weeded out the corruption. And in its place, I had built something real. As I turned back to Olivia, I let myself relax for the first time in a long while. Yes, I said, smiling. Tell me about that Ferrari. What started as a test of my employees turned into something much bigger. I didn't just clean house, I changed lives. And the greatest lesson I learned? Money doesn't define worth. Character does. And those who fail to see that don't deserve a place in my world. The day after my final test run, I sat in my office, reflecting on everything that had transpired. My employees had changed, my business had evolved, but most importantly, I had proven a point. Respect and kindness should never be tied to a price tag. Yet, there was still something lingering at the back of my mind. Aiden. Despite everything, I couldn't deny that his growth had been remarkable. He had gone from a smug, selfish man to someone who truly cared about others. But had he changed enough? Could I ever trust him to stand in my showroom again? I decided it was time to find out. Summoning Aiden to my office, I leaned back in my chair as he entered, his posture no longer carrying the arrogance I once despised. He stood before me, hands clasped, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. You wanted to see me, Miss Carter? He asked cautiously. Yes, I said, watching him closely. I've seen your work at the outreach garage. You've done well. But tell me, if I gave you back your job at the showroom, would you fall into old habits? Aiden's jaw tightened. No, he said firmly. I know I don't deserve that chance again, but if you gave it to me, I swear, I would never forget what I learned. I studied him for a long moment before making my decision. You can come back, I said. But under one condition. His head snapped up in surprise. Anything. You start from the bottom. No fancy commissions, no luxury clients. You work the floor like a trainee. And if I catch even one hint of your old ways, you're out. Permanently. His expression wavered, pride battling humility. But finally he nodded. I'll do it. I extended my hand. Then welcome back to Carter Luxury Motors. Don't make me regret this. He shook my hand, his grip firm, and for the first time, I saw not a salesman, but a man trying to prove himself. A few weeks later, I made an unannounced visit to the showroom. This time, I wasn't disguised. I walked in as Alessia Carter, CEO of the business. And what I saw left me stunned. Aiden, the same man who had once dismissed customers based on appearances, was helping a man in construction boots and grease-stained overalls browse a Lamborghini. Not with sarcasm. Not with arrogance. With genuine respect. "This is a beautiful machine," Aiden was saying, explaining the specs of the car. "And if you're serious about it, we can discuss financing options that work best for you." I waited, curious. The customer hesitated. "I'm not sure if—" "Listen, sir," Aiden said, smiling. "Everyone deserves to dream. And if this is your dream, I'd be happy to make it a reality for you." Something inside me shifted. It was real. He had truly changed. I stepped forward, making my presence known. Aiden saw me and stiffened, but I gave him a slight nod of approval. He had passed his final test. Success isn't measured by how many cars we sell, but by how we make people feel. I had built Carter Luxury Motors with the intention of selling prestige and class, but I had almost lost sight of something greater: integrity. Now, with new leadership, a stronger team, and a business model that didn't revolve around treating people like walking bank accounts, my dealership was not just a showroom. It was an experience. But my journey wasn't over. There was still more to prove, more people to teach, and a future to secure. And I was just getting started. The shift in my business was undeniable. The once toxic, judgmental atmosphere had been completely eradicated. Every employee who remained understood that this was no longer just a showroom. It was a place where anyone, regardless of appearance or wealth, was treated with dignity. But I wasn't done testing. I wanted to see if the lesson had truly stuck. One morning, I arranged for a test. I hired an actor, a man dressed in a janitor's uniform, covered in grease stains, pretending to be a father looking for a reliable car for his daughter's first drive. I watched from the security cameras as he entered the showroom. Olivia was the first to approach him, smiling warmly. "Good morning, sir. What brings you in today?" He hesitated, adjusting his cap. I don't know if I belong here. Just looking for something safe for my little girl. But I don't want to waste anyone's time." Olivia's eyes softened. "Sir, we'd be honored to help. Every customer is important here. Let me show you some great options." She led him to the safety-certified vehicles, treating him with the same level of respect and patience as she would a millionaire looking for a Bugatti. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. Finally, they understood. Just as things were settling into place, a storm began brewing. One evening, I received an anonymous tip about a competing luxury dealership that had started spreading rumors about my business. "They're saying Carter Luxury Motors is losing prestige because you're letting just anyone walk in," the informant explained. That was enough to set my blood boiling. I had worked too hard, fought too many battles, to allow an insecure competitor to smear my name. And if they thought I'd let it slide, they didn't know who they were dealing with. I dug deeper. I had my legal team investigate. It turned out that the rival dealership, Bennett Exotics, had been bribing media outlets to tarnish my reputation. This was war. I wasn't one for public confrontations, but this was personal. I called for a press conference. If they wanted to test my patience, I'd make sure they regretted it. Standing in front of cameras, I addressed the rumors head-on. "I've heard the whispers. That Carter Luxury Motors has lost prestige because we treat every customer like a human being, regardless of their wealth." I looked straight into the cameras. "Let me be clear, I will never apologize for treating people with respect. And if that's what my competitors see as a weakness, then they've already lost." The room erupted in applause. Later that night, Bennett Exotics tried to walk back their statements, but it was too late. Their smear campaign backfired spectacularly. Customers, both rich and ordinary, flocked to my showroom, wanting to support a business that valued people over bank accounts. And just like that, I had won another battle. A month after my press conference, something happened that caught me completely off guard. An older man walked into my office, dressed in a sharp yet understated suit. He introduced himself as William Graves, an investor who had been watching my business transformation closely. "I've been in the luxury automotive business for over 40 years, he said, placing a thick envelope on my desk. And I've never seen anyone turn a company around the way you have. I frowned, unsure where this was going. Mr. Graves, what are you saying? He leaned forward. I want to invest in Carter Luxury Motors. And not just that, I want to partner with you in expanding this vision of yours. A dealership that serves everyone, without arrogance or discrimination. What do you say? My breath hitched. This wasn't just an offer, it was an opportunity to build an empire. I extended my hand. Let's make history. With the expansion of Carter Luxury Motors in motion, I had to ensure my team was truly ready to lead. That included Aiden. One afternoon, I called him into my office. He had been working hard, proving himself every day, but I needed one final test before fully reinstating him. Aiden, you've come a long way, I said, watching his posture stiffen. But are you ready for more responsibility? Yes, Ms. Carter, he said without hesitation. I slid a folder across the table. Inside were the blueprints for a brand new Carter dealership in another state. I want you to run this location, I said simply. His mouth fell open. You're serious? I am. But understand this, Aiden. If you ever revert to your old ways, you're done for good. Are you willing to take this chance and prove that you've truly changed? He swallowed hard, then nodded. I won't let you down. And for the first time in years, I believed him. As Carter Luxury Motors expanded, my story, the story of the woman who went undercover and exposed the rot in her own company, spread like wildfire. Media outlets called it a bold move. I called it necessary. Even my father, a hard man to impress, reached out for the first time in years. You did good, Alessia, he admitted over the phone. Proud of you. I didn't need his validation, but hearing it, it felt nice. Just when I thought everything was going smoothly, another challenge surfaced. An anonymous letter arrived, detailing that someone inside my company had been leaking information to a competitor. I couldn't believe it. After everything, there was still a snake in my midst. Determined to find out the truth, I set a trap. I fed false information about an upcoming exclusive car launch to a select few employees and waited. Days later, I saw my baited information published on a competitor's website. And just like that, I had my traitor. The culprit? A longtime employee I had once trusted. I confronted him the next day. You had everything, opportunities, respect, and a career. Why betray me? His lips curled into a sneer. Because you don't belong in this industry. A woman who preaches kindness in a world built on exclusivity. You'll never last. I stepped forward, looking him dead in the eye. Watch me. Then I fired him on the spot. With the traitor gone, my company was finally clean of corruption. I had started this journey as a business owner trying to fix a problem. I ended it as a woman who changed an industry. Carter Luxury Motors became the most sought-after dealership chain in the country, not just for its exotic cars, but for its reputation. A place where anyone was welcome. And that was worth more than all the money in the world. One night, as I locked up the showroom, I saw a father and daughter peering through the glass, admiring a car. I opened the door and smiled. Want to come in? The father hesitated. We can't afford anything here. I held the door open wider. That doesn't matter.
Come in.
Let's talk about your dream. Because this was what I had fought